if we take it a step back and think about like the problems that we were trying to solve, they didn't know how to prioritize their accounts. They didn't know if they had the right accounts. They weren't sure if the messaging was clear or resonating with their prospect. And so I think when we talk about like the higher ASPs, well, it's a lot easier when you have intent data to go after a higher market account and understand if they're actually ready to buy, because those are more expensive to get at anyways, right?
This is the Revenue-Driven CMO. I'm your host, Chris Mechanic. Join me as I uncover the secrets of the world's most elite CMOs and marketing leaders. The Revenue-Driven CMO is sponsored by Web Mechanics, the AI-driven performance agency that makes you smarter. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Revenue-Driven CMO. I am your man, Chris Mechanic, here with a really awesome guest today. She's a visionary leader in the marketing operations space, which is a space that, is obviously critical. It's really needed. I think we don't really talk about it maybe as much as we could or should. But this is a marketer who is known for her ability to really post wins and drive growth through operational excellence and through innovative strategies and just a really deep understanding of revenue cycles and the technology that really drives them. She is currently director of marketing operations at Drata, which is a leading security and compliance automation platform. Really transforming the way that the sales and marketing teams collaborate by building out scalable processes and leveraging data-driven insights, as well as fostering a culture of automation. Her career spans over 7 years in marketing operations, where she's consistently just delivered impactful results to really drive revenue. And she's contributed to the growth of $100 million ARR startups and billion-dollar organizations across various industries: real estate, oil and gas, restaurant technology, cyber. She's really got a very interesting background. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Miss Kacee Court. How are you, Kacee?
Hi, I'm good. I'm just going to take you everywhere with me to introduce me. That was awesome. Loved it.
I'll be like your, like they used to do back in the day when like a king or a queen would walk into a room and the Japanese announcer going first. It's funny.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I'll just bring my crown.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk today about all the superpowers that I've got with the marketing and technology space.
It's going to be awesome. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of really cool things about you. I heard that you lit it up recently at some conference with like a really awesome case study.
Breakthrough.
Yeah. So tell us.
Yeah, we can talk about that today.
Tell us all about it. What would you say is your big superpower? Or what's your biggest secret to success?
I think that my secret to success is actually, you kind of hit on it already. It is fostering a culture of automation. And when we start to think about that and what that actually means, I think if you take a step back and look at all of the companies that are really trying to launch this account-based program, they're still falling short. And they're like, I've got the perfect ICP. I'm choosing the right ABM strategy. I've got this flawless go-to-market play. And it's like, I've got all of it. And it's like, right, all of the ingredients, but they're still not seeing the expected success. And let's be real, it's actually kind of hard to get all of those things working together. So going back to like what that means of fostering a culture of automation is there is true marketing and sales alignment. Like we're all in the same boat, rowing in the same direction. But the key is that we're all fully bought in on what we're trying to go do. The second part of that is also the team embracing technology. I think a lot of times, especially from the marketing ops perspective, like you set up tooling and you're like, okay, let's go drive, let's go use it. But people don't really fully trust the technology and they don't allow it to do the heavy lifting for them. So they're consistently like going back and double checking. But when you embrace it and you let it do the heavy lifting for you, you're moving a lot faster. And I think the third thing that means is you're enabling your team. So going back to Breakthrough, spoke all about it, so we can dive into that. But you're enabling your team and equipping them to maximize both their tech and their regular day-to-day processes. And so, really, the outcome of that for us was we were closing higher quality deals with unmatched efficiency. At Drata, when we launched Sixth Sense in our ABM program a year ago, we actually saw a 2x increase in our ASPs, a 3x increase in our close rates, and we were closing those deals 30% faster. So the big win, yeah. The big win here is we actually generated enough pipeline in 45 days to pay for Sixth Sense itself. So it's not just a superpower to me; it's a game changer.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. It brings a lot of questions to mind. I want to talk about Sixth Sense a little bit because I've heard mixed things about it. I've had mixed experiences with it. Some people are like, it's bogus, like the intent data is not accurate or it's misleading or what have you. But then I've seen some experiences like yours, but like, how are you guys using Sixth Sense? Like, what are the main ways that you guys are leveraging it?
Before I answer that, I'll go back to the intent data because I've heard mixed things too. And I think when you're looking at the variety of tools, I mean, all of the tools are trying to like do the same thing right at this point. You've got other tools like ZoomInfo with intent data, G2, all of these tools, they're not all going to be 100% accurate. Like that's just something you have to accept. But if it's 95% accurate, you're still able to accomplish what you're trying. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind. And I think the other part of it and how we're using it at Drata is really to maximize our efficiency as we're trying to go up market. That's something everybody struggles with. So it's like, how do we maximize our efficiency here? And that's what we're doing with Sixth Sense. We're able to use that to be able to scale our account-based program.
So can we get a little tactical with it? Like, take me into the nitty gritty. Like how do you and supposedly you're speaking with somebody who like doesn't really, it may not be that familiar with Sixth Sense. You've got your ABM program where you've got these named accounts that you're going after. So like, how are you using Sixth Sense to get in front of those accounts?
Yeah. So I'll kind of focus on the sales side first. We basically launched a pilot team with the sales org, and we taught them how to use Sixth Sense in their day-to-day workflow. So like this is your new workflow. You're going to log in. This is how you're going to prioritize your accounts. Because that was a huge pain point for them. They were like, help me prioritize. I don't even know what to go look after. So taught them more of like the tactical things of like the buying stage and the intent and all that. And then we basically had them teach their peers. And that was kind of the secret for us because when you're teaching a sales org, they don't want to hear the head of marketing ops saying, go do this, they want to hear that it works and that it's making their day easier. So that pilot team basically taught their peers. And then we had like this massive hype channel. So we were cheering everybody on. Everybody's getting really excited about it. We're all competitive and hungry. So obviously there were spiffs and competition. So just kind of like layering that all together and again, like really fostering that or like that culture, we saw the success from it. And so even after like the big win for us was like the first day after the first training, somebody booked a $50,000 deal. So it was very exciting for them.
That's cool. So if I'm a salesperson, I have Sixth Sense open, but I'm also in CRM at the same time. So I've got like two tabs or.
No, this is the beauty of it. So actually Sixth Sense integrates into Salesforce and it integrates into Outreach. So our SDRs are using the Sixth Sense iframe in Outreach, immediately able to drop people into sequences by the click of a button. And then our AEs are primarily focused in Salesforce in that iframe. And so they're able to kind of like get all the data that their SDR has already put on the account, all the research, and they can leverage the AI insights. And so they're just working in one place.
Okay, which is Salesforce or Outreach, and Sixth Sense is like piped into that basically.
Yeah. And so the other beautiful part of this is they've got this new upgraded license where they can actually do contact enrichment also in the same place. So then they're not having to go to another system like LinkedIn Sales Nav or whatever it is to get that information.
Got it. Okay, so it makes sense to me now how the sales team is using it. Where does the marketing team come into play, or like what's the marketing team doing?
Yeah. So I can give you like maybe a more tactical example, but we basically run all of our campaigns through 6sense display. And you can also push that segment information to like social or even Google to target those specific accounts. And so that's one example that they're doing. But then whenever we launch our actual like integrated campaigns, it's just a piece of the puzzle for us. So we create our segments, whether it's based off of G2 data, like they're looking and comparing us to competitors. And we're actually using that to obviously show, display, and push them through the funnel. But the special part of it is getting the messaging right by the buying stage and by the persona. So we've got different campaigns that are running. Um, and it's very targeted messaging. It's people who are actually relevant and they are ready to purchase if your goal is to drive pipeline. Or it could just be as simple as awareness if they're at the top of the funnel.
And so the audiences that you were talking about, like the G2 audiences, are those are generated in 6sense too, or those are generated elsewhere?
Yeah. So the fun part about all of these enterprise tech stacks is everything integrates with everything. And so the trick is getting that right. But so we have G2 integrated into 6sense. And so we're able to pull in that data to really maximize who our audience is and who's actually interested in us.
I gotcha. So what's the distinction between, because it sounds like you could do most of these things like via LinkedIn ads too. Like if you had a list of target accounts and you can probably pipe your G2 audiences directly into LinkedIn, for instance. What's the benefit of using 6sense? So 6sense is where you're going to actually run the ads. Like that's where you're actually pushing launch in. You're like building the campaigns there and pressing launch there.
Right. I think the benefit for us, at least, is, and this is at any company, really, we've done it at other companies as well. It's more targeted. You're able to say, "Hey, 6sense, go target these specific accounts that I'm asking you to in LinkedIn," versus when you're in LinkedIn, you just pick different attributes that you want it to target. So it's more broad. It's going to reach a larger audience, and it may or may not be the account that you want, right? Because there's different like buckets of like business services and professional services and whatever. So you can get a little bit more granular in 6sense and not waste more of those dollars in LinkedIn.
Yeah, I was just thinking that you would target by the companies, like companies and titles, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. It's more broad in LinkedIn, and there's benefits to advertising in LinkedIn directly as well.
I'm really interested, and I think a lot of folks are interested in kind of demystifying 6sense. Though I know a lot of folks are already using it. But so the general flow is like, okay, you've identified these accounts that you want. You create advertising campaigns via 6sense and maybe other platforms to start generating website visits and other types of signals. And then those signals are used by the SDR team and the AEs basically to help prioritize like who it is that they're doing manual outreach towards. Is that the general gist, or that's the general flow?
Yeah, general thing. And then I think again, going back to like actually enabling them so they understand the data that they're looking at and they're able to kind of piece it all together. The other beautiful part of this is that they can see all of the intent data in one place so they can personalize their outreach to the people that they're trying to obviously get a meeting with. But that's generally speaking, yeah, the flow.
And then so the big deals that you were able to close and close at a higher ASP and close faster than normal. Like what do you attribute those two elements? Like why do you think it was a higher ASP and why do you think it was faster close than normal?
Yeah. I think if we take it a step back and think about like the problems that we were trying to solve, they didn't know how to prioritize their accounts. They didn't know if they had the right accounts. They weren't sure if the messaging was clear or resonating with their prospect. And so I think when we talk about like the higher ASPs, well, it's a lot easier when you have intent data to go after a higher market account and understand if they're actually ready to buy because those are more expensive to get at anyways, right? That's why it's a little bit less efficient when you're going up market. But When we're talking about different targeting and being able to see that these people are actually interested, um, for example, that larger deal that we brought in, he like our SDR was literally looking at the intent data, saw that they were on the product page, they were on the demo page, literally reached out, and the guy was like, "Do you know I'm on your website?" Don't be creepy with it, by the way. I have to stress this to our team. I'm like, please do not be creepy and say that you saw all these things.
You're like, no, I have no idea that you are halfway done reading our product page.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I compare it to like a first date. I'm like, you would not go on a date with somebody and told them that you stalked their socials. We all know that we do it. That's fine, but like, don't be creepy about it. So yeah, it comes back to like being able to see again who is in market and being able to segment out, your audience sizes, being able to segment out your personas. I mean, you're blind and you're basically giving yourself some glasses to be able to see like the market and where everybody's at.
Hey, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, Web Mechanics will do 10 to 20 hours of work for you for free. Literally no sales calls, no BS. Just give them a problem and they will put a team to work for you for free for 10 to 20 hours, even if you're already a client. If you're struggling with demand gen, lead gen, SEO, SEM, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, conversion optimization, if you can't get Facebook or Meta ads to work for the life of you, or you can't figure out attribution, Web Mechanics will take a good hard look at whatever problem you give them, whatever programs you put in front of them, and they will give you an objective, informed opinion, plus some advice from 10 to 20 hours of senior level attention. So I would suggest take them up on this offer. It's ridiculous. Go to revenue-drivencmo.com/free, fill out the 2-minute form, and you will not regret it. Literally zero downside, unlimited potential for growth. So do yourself a favor, revenue-drivencmo.com/free, no hyphens, no punctuations. You will be happy about that decision.
So back to intent data. One criticism that I've heard said was that, okay, so you're in the security business, right? And suddenly it shows that like, okay, IBM is in market, but is there any way to distinguish like whether that is just some like security intern at IBM, reading like reading some article on Wired magazine versus like whether that's actually something that they're like trying to buy?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think for us and our team, like how we taught them to approach this is one, if they've identified themselves and we know who they are because they submitted a form, you can see that information. Two, if they are anonymous, we've actually trained our team to look at all of the different data points that are available to them to actually be able to try to identify who they are. So you see an anonymous user from, we're just going to say Hawaii, like out of all places. You can actually go into LinkedIn Sales Nav and you can start to do your research to figure out, okay, there's this person from this area. Um, and it may or may not be valuable, right? Like if it's like one person from one-off like place versus like there's an anonymous user from like Houston, Texas that keeps visiting our website. Like there's different ways to kind of measure that and understand if it is somebody who's in the buying unit. And I think Sixth Sense actually does a really great job of this because you can actually see this persona map of different people that would fit your persona, and you may or may not have reached out to them. And it kind of gives you those insights of like, hey, this is actually a really like hot person on the account. Go reach out to them. Like it will directly tell you that. So it also helps them with that too.
I see. So if it knows the visitor, it can tell you that. If it doesn't know the visitor, does it do kind of like lead feeder does, where it's like it might be one of these like 4 people?
It doesn't do that. It doesn't tell us. I wish it would. That's a great idea. No, but it gives us their location data, and then sometimes we can see like other titles and people in the buying unit that would fit our personas. Um, the other part of it too is you can get really cool, and I don't know if this is tactical or even a really great strategy, maybe both. But you can actually start to pull out your list of ICP accounts, and then contact enrich the account by persona so that you're getting more of that information and you know who to target, they're more likely to start popping up on your radar if you're starting to feed them ads because you've got the full buying unit. And then you're multi-threading your accounts.
Got it. Got it. So, excuse me for getting so tactical here, but I'm just fascinated by this stuff. Um, so you've identified your set of target accounts. Are you whittling that down by intent? So, like, let's say that there's 1,000 that you like, but only 200 of them are showing any sorts of signs of intent. Are you focusing just on those 200?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So from a sales perspective, from a marketing perspective, it'll be a little bit different. So for marketing, we've got full funnel campaigns that are running, and that's awareness all the way down to purchase. The goal there is to serve that relevant messaging again by persona to start moving them through the funnel and really educating them throughout their buyer's journey. Whether it's thought leadership content, whether it is then like later on trying to book that meeting and handing it off to the sales team. But for the sales team, if they've got however many accounts that they're trying to work through that are in their name, and it's like, which ones do we go after? Well, you're the sales team. You're going to want to go after decision and purchase because these people are like ready to buy. And the trick for them too is, I don't think a lot of people think about it, is like you're actually at that point really competing with your competitors. Who is going to reach out to that person at the right time when they're ready to buy? And so making sure that your strategy and your tech stack are both really tight, so that you can get to them a lot faster because that's going to probably be the person who ends up winning that deal.
Yeah. Are you seeing most of your deals come from like via inbound, like they are at the point where they're just filling out the form on your site, or is it mostly like originated by the outbound folks that are going and kind of hunting after them?
Yeah, I think for us and like other experiences as well, like whenever I've been at other companies and we're all trying to go up market, you're primarily going to see people coming inbound, especially if you're focused down market because they're on paid search, they're like paid social, just coming inbound. But as you start to move up market and work that outbound motion, that's really where like these tools come into play to really support that. It's a transition period. It just really kind of depends on like where the company is at and where your growth targets are.
So once again, from a sales perspective, so like let's say you've got 1,000 accounts, 200 of them have some signs of life, some signs of intent, but then some portion of them are actually, have that sign of intent and have visited your website. So, and those are the ones really that the sales team would be probably zoned in on, like not just any sign of intent, but hey, like they're all on the website or they have visited the website or have visited this key page or
Yep. And the beauty about all of these intent tools is like you can set up alerts. I mean, they're getting notified in real time of like when people are visiting. And obviously their intent scores will drive up as they're engaging with us. They're searching for certain keywords. And so you can really like basically like hone that in for them to help them prioritize and understand like who's actually a good fit. And I think you're still going to see people who are actually not part of your ICP or like a strong fit of your ICP still visiting your website, still engaging with what you've got. And so on the marketing side, you can leverage other tools like AI agents to start working those leads and having conversations for them so that when those people are ready to buy, if they are potentially going to fit, then we've already done all the hard work for them and they didn't have to focus on that. They can focus on those high intent, high value, good ICP accounts.
so. Hold up, where do AI agents come into play? That's like my favorite buzzword of the day.
I'm here for it. Let's talk about it. What this does is it basically is an AI agent that is acting as a BDR. So it is having the conversations and reaching out to people to warm up those opportunities. So, like a really good example would be you've got an event lead follow up. Not all of those leads are going to be hot. They don't need to prioritize the warm leads or the cold leads. You can put this in conversational email and it will start to reach out to people. And it's got all of your information on like who your company is, what your tone is, and also empathy. So if it says, hey, like I actually had like, I don't know, an incident in the family, I'm not available right now, reach out to me in 2 weeks. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And then it will like, you can schedule the follow up. And so it basically is helping the sales team be more efficient, prioritize the hot accounts. And for marketing, it's able to drive more pipeline because obviously you want to see your max ROI on whatever channel you're activating. So,
And is that in Sixth Sense as well, or is that a different tool?
yeah, that's part of Sixth Sense. I guess I'm here to rep Sixth Sense
The
today.
conversational email is?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, that's cool. When did they do that?
It's a newer product. I would say it's been a couple years that they've had it, but I feel like it's really on the come up right now. There's a lot of cool things that they've launched. They've really got it fine tuned at this point. And I'm starting to hear more people talking about how they're using it. So,
Does it ever like mess up badly? Or have you ever seen it like really kind of?
I personally haven't. I don't think so, and I've not heard of it messing up very badly. But again, that's all about training your agent and making sure that it's got the right tone and messaging. And again, going back to the empathy thing, it's not going to be like, okay, great, I'm still going to reach out to you if you've got something going on outside of work. So,
No, this is super cool stuff. And I'm looking at the case study here now. But that's really awesome. So let's bring this all home, right? So it sounds like you've got mad Sixth Sense skills, right? But you didn't say that was your superpower. You said your superpower was fostering a culture of automation. So let's give listeners some advice. So if somebody wants to, really step up the measurable results that they see from their ABM programs and their outbound programs, they're bought in on fostering a culture of automation. What's like, 3 things that they should do or 5 things that they should do or any number that you really.
okay. I will say, and I want to clarify, like the tools don't do all the work for you. Like that, you can't just set it up. You'll see efficiencies if you set it up, but you've got to know how to use them and be able to train your team on how to use them to actually maximize those efforts. So I would say if you're starting off, again, you've got your ICP, you've got all the other box checked. You have to be able to enable both your marketing and your sales team on how to maximize those returns. How do they prioritize their accounts? How do they integrate this in their daily workflow to make it easy and a seamless, workflow for them? So one, getting them to train each other is also really helpful. Because again, they don't want to hear it from somebody who's not on their team. So really just embracing that, allowing them to train each other and celebrate those wins. And I think the other part is kind of fluffy, but relationship building. And that's a big part of it ultimately. Like you're all on one team, one dream. We'll get a little cheesy with it. But I think really building those relationships between marketing and sales specifically helps strengthen that alignment.
Got it.
And I think the third thing is being aligned on the results that you're expecting from your team. So making sure that if you're running an awareness campaign, that the goal is to push people down the funnel, it's to get more people in the account engaged. Or if you're working with a sales team and you're running a campaign, like the goal is going to be pipeline, but making sure that there's also like, as you're measuring these results, there's a feedback loop. And so really just embracing that and those conversations, I think will also help you be successful.
No, that's great advice. Awesome advice. And it's really clear, like from a sales perspective, it sounds like there's a lot that is just happening automatically. Like there's notifications and filters and views, and even the AI agent, is automatically doing things. What parts are automated from like from a marketing perspective? What all is automated?
A lot. Like that's a loaded question. It just depends on like what tactic you're running. I think for us, like especially on the marketing ops side, like when we've got events, we've got our list of leads, and then on my team, we are immediately uploading them. It's triggering outreach sequences. It's triggering either like conversational email, whatever it may be. And then it's contact enriching and it's enriching the account. So there's so much that kind of happens like down funnel after that. That might be a larger conversation with a full tech stack.
So really, it sounds like the only parts that aren't automated are like uploading the contacts. And I guess with each contact, you have to say like, hey, this is a hot one, enroll it in that sequence, or hey, this is the cold one, like put it in.
It depends. Yeah, it depends. Like some of our stuff is manual in that way, but if it's all integrated, like we've already got workflows set up that are templatized, rinse and repeat. You don't have to waste time on that, and it's tagging them, it's adding them to Salesforce campaigns, and a lot of our stuff is already set up, so like we can immediately start to see when pipeline starts to build from this campaign, like where it's coming from, and all the details with that. So it's pretty automated from that point and making sure that we've got all the data enriched on it as well. So it just kind of depends on the channel.
So it sounds like Salesforce, 6sense, Outreach are tools that you love and can't live without. Are there any others that you would add in that? I got a good one.
Oh, you have, well, I was going to say Domo.
Domo. What is Domo? Well, I've heard of Domo.
It's a BI reporting tool. And it's, yeah, you've got to be able to report on your results too. So it's not just about making money, it's being able to see it too. I would, yeah, I would say Domo, and then tech stack wise, I also really like Qualified for chat and your inbound meeting booking. Um, and then I can also rave about lean data all day for account routing, contact routing.
Interesting. I got to check those ones out. The revenue orchestration platform.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's cool. So what does that actually do? It routes the accounts like to the proper.
Yeah, there's a ton of use cases for it. You can route contacts, accounts, opportunities, all the different things. We use it across go-to-market. So for marketing, it might be lead routing. For sales, it might be account routing when somebody's moving around different territories. It's routing out accounts whenever they change managers, all the different things like that.
I got it. So suppose that, contact A from client A leaves and goes to some company B, which is not a client. Lean data would like pick up on that and say,
Automatically trigger. Yep. Yeah. Talk about time savings. That's what that tool is. You can look at it that way.
huge. That is super cool. Yeah, I've got one for you, which I'm in love with these days. It's called RB2B. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of this, and yes, I've heard it.
Where 6sense will tell you the companies, RB2B is able to match with the individuals. So, and
Wait,
it
tell
will
me more
match.
about this. I don't know too much about it. I've heard of it, so tell me more about that.
So it's super simple. It's just like a quick line of code that you put onto your site, and the free version you can hook it up with Slack or Teams if you use Teams, and just create a new channel called like live web visitors, and it will match to probably like 20 to 30% of your traffic, largely when they are logged into LinkedIn. So basically we'll shoot these little alerts into the Slack channel that's like, hey, this person is on the site, and it's deterministically like an individual person. And then with the paid version, you can see other stuff like which pages they're looking at, and you can run searches or you can pipe them into Salesforce automatically with the paid version.
That's cool. That's interesting.
Even the paid version is pretty cheap, but it's it would be really cool for you if you guys, if you're in a world where it's like, okay, IBM's on the site, like somebody from Honolulu, like let's everybody go look around and like, see who that might be. This wouldn't be a perfect solve because it won't match to every single visitor. There'll
Yeah.
still be some mysteries in there, but there will be some where it's like, aha, that person, that actual person is on the site right now.
Yeah. Well, when you said that, I mean, I guess if they're using LinkedIn to kind of help support like figuring out who it is, that kind of makes sense. But I was curious about that, like the accuracy, especially because we're being blinded with tracking these days. Like cookies are going away. I mean, there's so many different like privacy laws that are being enacted. So that's interesting to me that they'd be able to do that. Do you know the match rate on it?
It's pretty low. It's like 20 to 30%.
Okay. But it still gives you 20 to 30% more insight, I guess.
Yeah, it does. And it tells you about how it works exactly on the website. And it's just rb2b.com. Their founder was on the pod, actually. He's a really cool guy and really smart. But because it's different from Clearbit. How does it work? Yeah. So once you install the script, use a combination of first and third party cookies, device IDs, and IP addresses to track. And once we identify somebody, we'll push them to your Slack.
Dang, I'm gonna go take a look at this.
So it kind of triangulates it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, just because you shared a number of them with me, but I'll tell you about the other one that I'm obsessed with now. I'm obsessed with AI voice agents. I'm not sure if you've experienced them at all, but I wholeheartedly believe that like every company is going to have an AI voice agent, probably more than one. The same way that we all have websites now. But like the whole, press one for sales, press two for service, like that's definitely going away. And like the old IVRs that are like, oh, you can say things like check my account balance and like they never work. They're very frustrating, you know. Um, but AI voice agents, if you experience one, it's basically just like talking with a human. There's a little bit of latency, like the timing isn't perfect yet. Sometimes they'll wait a little bit too long to respond, and sometimes they'll respond too quickly. And it sounds, slightly robotic still, but that will go away soon.
Yeah, so funny enough, my last company that I worked at, it was restaurant technology, but one of them was quite literally just this. It was our voice bot, and it was AI powered, and you could actually customize the tone, and it was really good. Like, we would literally have people we were prospecting were like, "Call and try to break it. Try it." Like, we were really confident in it because it worked so well, and that was a huge product for us. Like, when you're talking about, all of the restaurants getting inundated, what's the word? Getting a ton of
Inundated. Yeah.
inundated, can't think today, it's Friday. But they're getting just tons of calls, especially like we focused on like the pizza space, which doesn't sound very sexy, but pizza's good. So, they're getting yeah, hundreds of calls a day. And so this was something that allowed them to kind of free up their time, especially like going through COVID when there weren't like a lot of people actually working there and they were short staffed. That was a huge problem. And so it was exactly that solved all of those problems.
Yeah. And I mean, just think about so like the enterprise, of course, will probably be the first to embrace it, but think about all the small businesses out there, like the mom and pop, home services, the roofers, the contractors and things. Um, they get calls at all times of day and night. Some of them have full-time people that do, not much else other than answer the phone. But like if I need a plumber and I'm making calls, right? Like I'm going to call the first one. If he picks up or she picks up, I'm most likely going to move forward with them. But if not, I'm going to call another one and another one until somebody finally picks up. And just like you were saying before, like the first one really to make contact is probably going to get that deal.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's a great example. I actually did that the other day, calling somebody for my fence. So
Totally, 100%.
good point.
Like you want it now. But yeah, my go-to tool for that is Bland AI, bland.ai. And if you go to their homepage, you can put your phone number in and it will generate a call. And their bot is called Blandy. And Blandy will try to sell you a deal on, it'll try to sell you basically on Bland AI.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
And it's fun to try to break it. Like one time Blandy called and she always starts with like, "Hey, who's this?" And I'm like, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Is this Taco Bell? I thought I was calling Taco Bell." And she was like, "Nope, not Taco Bell." And she like made some funny joke about it, but then tried to turn it around and learn about me and see if I was like anything resembling a good prospect. Like it was really kind of impressive.
I'm gonna try this out now. I've got it pulled up. I'm looking at it. This is this looks really cool.
It is. It's super cool.
Love that.
Yeah, and I think for whatever reason, So like we have clients in B2B SaaS. We also have other clients in other spaces like mortgage or home services or, more of these B2C spaces. And in those B2C spaces, phone calls are coveted. So for instance, like if we are running a campaign, we might bid 50% or even 100% higher for a phone call because the contact rate on forms are pretty low. Like for every 100 forms that you get filled out, like you're not going to get in touch with every single one of them. But for whatever reason, the B2B SaaS motion does not tend to prioritize phone calls. Like it mostly tends to be like, hey, download this case study or fill out this demo request thing, or may, maybe even book a meeting. But I don't see any reason why not, you know, jump on a quick call or like I know well, I think the companies aren't really set up for it, and I think the buyers aren't really trained on it. Like the buyers, I think they're sort of trained to wanna request a demo.
I think I've worked in both scenarios. Like, I worked for a company that was like, "You better call them within 5 minutes of submitting a form." And then I've worked for a company where it's like, we actually don't even ask for the phone number on the form because I think people have different ideas about it. Like, the day and age now, not everybody wants to be on the phone. They don't wanna get phone calls. They don't wanna be spammed with phone calls. Like, I think I probably get 30 spam calls a day, and it drives me insane. So if you have a tool to stop that from happening, let me know. But I think it just depends on the company culture.
Yeah.
And again, like you want to be able to be making that first contact with them. Otherwise, if your competitor is doing it, then you're just losing out.
There are apps for robocall blockers. There's quite a few of them actually. I don't have one installed because I like to pick it up sometimes and see like how they'll try to sell me or to see like what the latest scam of the day is. Um, I don't have a reco on it, but I know that this guy that works with us does use one. I think it might be just called RoboKiller. Um, I'll drop it. I'll drop it. I'll find out which one he uses and drop it. Are you iPhone or
Yes, I am team iPhone.
okay, cool. Um, but yeah, I think you make a valid point about phone calls, but I think that there's also and like nobody wants to be bothered by them when they're either not ready for it or when they are, when the time is not right. But I think that there's a cohort and a segment of website visitors that are like somewhere along that buyer's journey and they're getting closer to that point. And if it was like, if there was a call out on a page like, hey, call, there's less than a 1 minute wait time, like got a quick question or like want a quick micro demo. Like I think some cohort of that population would be like, okay, the time is good for me right now. So if I can just pick it up and I know that it's going to go right to the sales floor and I'm going to be able to talk with somebody, within 10 seconds, then I might make that call sometimes.
The first thought on that is the expectation of the prospect. So, to your point, like if they're expecting somebody to call, I think they're more willing to pick up. And I think where a lot of companies go wrong with that is they're like, oh, they downloaded a white paper, go call them. And it's like, no, don't do that. Nobody wants to talk to you. They're just trying to learn more about whatever, the product offering is or thought leadership, whatever. And then the second part of that, I think that's why chat has picked up so much because people don't want to talk on the phone. They just have a quick question. They don't want to have a demo. And so that's when they're leveraging that on the website. And again, you can power that with AI and train it so that you don't even have to have a person doing it. And then when they're ready to actually talk to a person and they're ready to like schedule that demo, that's when the person is actually looped in. So there's kind of two different like perspectives on that.
Totally. Totally. Well, Kacee, this has been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot and I've been very impressed and inspired. I'm pretty sure that we have sixth sense, but we're definitely not using it anywhere nearly to the way that you guys are. But I'm inspired to like jump in there right now and start using it. And I'm sure folks listening are also inspired. If you are listening and you were inspired or you learned anything, pay it forward and share this with a friend, or drop us a like or a comment or what have you, wherever you get your pods. We always appreciate that. Kacee, you are awesome. I could, this time has just flown by. I could sit here for another hour and just kind of talk shop with you, and I would enjoy that. But I know that you've got a lot of stuff to do. For folks that would like to learn more about you or Drata, where would you direct them to?
Well, obviously I've got a LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn and connect with me there, and follow Drata as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, I will check it out. I mean, you guys are really impressive. 3 years old and what'd you say, 50,000 customers or something? Or was it 5,000?
5,000 customers across the globe. Yeah, and actually counting very quickly. Yes, counting very quickly.
I mean, you've signed up well over 1,000 customers a year in your first 3 years in business. That's quite a trajectory.
Yeah, we're moving really fast over here. There's a joke, we call it Drata speed.
That's like 3 to 5 customers per business day, basically.
Oh yeah, we're crushing it. We're coming. Yeah, we're coming up.
Wild. That is incredibly impressive. Well, hey, stay on the line for just 1 second. We will finish up. But for everybody else, that was another awesome episode of Revenue-Driven CMO, and we will see you next time.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us here today. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at revenue-drivencmo.com. That's revenue-drivencmo.com. And hey, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, Web Mechanics will do 10 to 20 hours of work for you for free. Literally no sales calls, no BS. Just give them a problem and they will put a team to work for you for free for 10 to 20 hours. Even if you're already a client. If you're struggling with demand gen, lead gen, SEO, SEM, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, conversion optimization, if you can't get Facebook or Meta ads to work for the life of you, or you can't figure out attribution, Web Mechanics will take a good hard look at whatever problem you give them, whatever programs you put in front of them, and they will give you an objective, informed opinion, plus some advice from 10 to 20 hours of senior level attention. And that's just because you're a listener of this podcast. So I would suggest take them up on this offer. It's ridiculous. Go to revenue-drivencmo.com/free, fill out the 2-minute form, and you will not regret it. Literally zero downside, unlimited potential for growth. So do yourself a favor, revenue-drivencmo.com/free, no hyphens, no punctuations. You will be happy about that decision.